You're listening to the Digital Signage Today podcast. As business leaders look for ways to improve productivity and profitability, they're increasingly turning to innovative automation and self-service technologies. But keeping up with the rapid pace of new innovations can be overwhelming. Now there's a website to help you do just that. From the publishers of Kiosk Marketplace, Vending Times, and Digital Signage Today, Automation and Self-Service covers trends in artificial intelligence, robotics, kiosks, payments, and much more. Visit the site today and subscribe at www.automationandselfservice.com.
And welcome to the Digital Signage Today podcast. I'm your editor, Daniel Brown, and I have a very special guest today from one of my very favorite brands. I'm a huge Costco nut, as everybody knows who talks to me every weekend I'm going out. Would you like to introduce yourself to us there, Guy?
Hey, Daniel, thanks for having me. This is Guy Silver. I'm the Employee Development and Communications Director at Costco Wholesale, focusing on internal communications and employee development.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. And I'm just going to thank you right now. I was going to write a letter, but now I can tell you in person. You guys gave me my office monitor. I've been hunting everywhere for a decently priced monitor that wasn't these stupid curves, like these little gamer monitors. It drove me nuts. And you had a monitor last weekend, and literally I'm not squinting. It's amazing. Thank you. Seriously, all of you.
Hey, anything I could do to help.
So fill me in a little bit, because I think, folks who don't know the magic of Costco and don't shop there literally every Saturday like me may not put digital signage alongside the Costco name in the same sentence. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got into the digital signage scene? And is it more customer facing or maybe worker facing, or both?
Well, sure. The answer is both. My focus is on internal communications. And as the business owner of the Appspace platform, I also support some customer-facing initiatives. But I don't support that content. I just sort of help them navigate the business relationship. So today I'll be focusing on my area of expertise, which is employee facing.
Well, and I think that's very helpful, because we talk to more and more brands, especially after the post-pandemic. Retail is making its recovery globally. Foot traffic is on the way up. Spending is on the way up. We saw the S&P averages are hitting records. Recent news out of the Fed on the economy getting healthier, it sounds like. With that in mind, more and more retailers are asking, should I get into this should I invest in my worker communication network as I get more and more folks on the floor, or should I just go ahead and keep using the bulletin board? What is the advantage of this modern technology, and how have you seen it transform the worker experience?
Yeah, great question. While it's tempting to look at increased foot traffic and increased sales and improved comps, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at today's business news, especially, you'll find a lot of good stories there. We're still a penny business. And as such, we are very focused on whatever we do being done in an economical way. Because of that, and when you combine that with business expansion, things can get pretty expensive pretty quickly, but also you can start to lose track of an engagement with your employee base. So we realized that it was important for us in an expanding market to ensure that we maintain that connection with our employees. And it's just simple math is making that harder and harder to do. So we, during the pandemic, had a need to communicate safety information as well as leadership messages in a more effective way. And that's when we did a very immediate rollout of digital signage.
Now, is this mostly based, I'm guessing, in kind of the worker areas and the break room, or is this across the store?
It's, for my part of the initiative, it is break room focused. Sometimes we'll have them tucked away in a public space by a time clock. But primarily it's break room based. Some of our locations have one break room, some have two. But there you will see digital signage out on the sales floor. And again, that's not my area, although I do own the relationship with the vendor for Costco.
That's awesome. And just you anticipated one of my burning questions. I think one of the top questions we keep hearing from operators of all sizes who are getting curious, should I dip my toe into the technology pool? They're like, look, there are 10 billion gazillion options. How the heck am I going to pick hardware, software, support, all these different things? How did Costco tackle that question, and what did you come up with?
I had been watching the market for, probably 7 or 8 years. And what I started seeing is locations putting up their own TVs and plugging in thumb drives. And so it became clear to me, I already knew it, but it confirmed for me that at least our locations were wanting to use digital signage to communicate with their own people. What was lacking there was the corporate messaging. I did not, because I focus on corporate communications globally, and I didn't have a way to participate in the digital signage. And so this was going back about 6 to 8 years. I started researching digital signage. It was rather cost prohibitive, given the size and scale of our company. And then I discovered a company that was affordable, and our IT partners specified devices that they would want to use for digital signage. So about 3 years ago, after following the market for a period of time, I found both the platform and the hardware requirements that would support me and my team rolling out into hundreds and hundreds of break rooms. So I guess you might say I stumbled upon the right combination of platform and software with the help of our IT folks.
I love that. So we can kind of shatter one myth. It's just too expensive is something that I still sometimes hear at roadshows where they say, this would transform our entire business, but I could never do this at scale. And often people don't realize there is such a depth and breadth and variety. And furthermore, especially with, for example, the LED screen, cost per square inch comes down radically almost every quarter, it seems, kind of like Moore's Law in a way. So chances are maybe you actually can get involved in something that really engages your employee base, and maybe you shouldn't close that door too soon.
Absolutely. I was fortunate to have some folks in our IT wing who were already comfortable with the use of Chromeboxes. And for us, I'm not saying that's going to work for every other business out there, but for us, they valued the cost model of the Chromebox as well as the security features that are built into that technology. And so that combination really, again, I keep using that term, unlocked the door, I guess, for us to be able to rapidly deploy these products.
So it sounds like, keeping it a solution that's simple for your team to deploy and maintain at scale is central. And for those who may not be familiar with Chromebox, this is basically like a digital media player from Google, right? Cloud-based?
That's correct, yes. And we're a Google shop. So all of our media, our workspace, we're Google Workspace shop. And, but beyond even that, they analyzed a variety of media players and just felt like for Costco, the security features baked in to Chromebox was really critical. I don't know if we get a screaming deal, based on our size or whatever, but I'll just throw out there that we pay about $500 a box.
Okay.
So you combine that with the cost of your screen, and that box connects to our Wi-Fi network, and you can already start to do the math that it's in the past it was going to cost us about $4,000 or $5,000 per install.
Wow.
In the past, right? But as you noted, the cost of technology has come down quite a bit. And so, I mean, between a digital sign and a Chromebox, you might be at $1,000, and then your cabling costs, cabling, install, things like that.
Well, and I'm so curious to dive into the content and kind of the employee reaction, but I am curious, are you using some of those beautiful Costco TVs? Like, what's your signage solution for the hardware?
Let's just say sometimes being big can help with buying power, so I'd probably be admonished to leave it at that.
That's fair. That's fair. And so this is interesting. Do you have a central Costco content team, or does each store kind of make their own content?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of the system, the vendor that we use, which I already mentioned was Appspace. They allowed 3 points of input, or we had a requirement, I should say, for 3 points of input, and they call them playlists, right? So each location has its own channel, and that channel plays various playlists. And so the Chromebox comes programmed with 3 playlists: the location itself, the regional geographic area, and the corporate playlist. So my team, and so what we like about that is that if one of us is asleep at the wheel, there's always fresh content going up on that screen, because the location can publish to themselves, the region can publish to its whole area, and then my team publishes across the United States.
So it sounds like if there's, God forbid, some kind of emergency or health issue, you've got that covered too.
Yeah, I mean, I can take over all the screens. It's part of the functionality. So if we had an emergency broadcast that would go to an entire U.S., I could take over the screens. Or if our CEO wanted to get a message out to all locations at once, we can do that. In fact, that's what sold Costco on doing a rapid deployment across the United States. Is we wanted to be able to get COVID-related messages out to all the staff in a consistent and cohesive way.
And it seems like this is part of the ethos. I don't know, some people might say, oh, there's an urban legend, but ever since I was a child, there's always been the sense when I walk in the store that, and this is going to sound silly, but it feels like the brand cares about me as a customer, about the employees, about the health, about every aspect as human beings. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I'm curious, what has the employee reaction been to this initiative? Have you been able to measure some of that?
Well, measurement's a little tricky, right? Because it's a push communication. So we don't have a necessarily a digital record of what they think and feel about digital signage specifically. Nevertheless, we do have on the back end a variety of measurement tools where we can check when people have logged in, and this would be the store itself, how often they publish, and we're always looking at that, and we're very pleased with our results. We just, in fact, ran a 6-month audit, and we discover cleanup. We discover, and when I say clean up, what I mean is we discover devices that are offline, and it prompts us to contact the location to see what's going on. We review their playlist because we have ability to see what the locations are publishing and what is resonating with their employee base. That can also clue us into ways that we can be delivering messages in a different way. And also to share best practices, so things that we see out there. I would say that the risk here is that, remember those old signs that you had above your refrigerators with the marching red LED lights, that spelled out various messages. And then those were
I have one in my kitchen. I'm kidding.
Right. Those just became black bars that sat above your refrigerator, right? Because they stopped being engaging. And that is a concern that we had going into this, but that's why that 3 points of input is so valuable. I will say that installing this system does not fix poor location or poor communication at a location. I'll say that again. This system does not fix poor communication at a location.
I love the way you said that and reiterated, because a lot of folks think technology is going to be a silver bullet and I'm going to buy a magic gadget and I don't have to be a traditionally competent operator in whatever space. So what would you say is the secret? How do you have good communication that can be supplemented by the technology? What's the core?
Great. I'm glad you asked that. We have a communication strategy that we deploy with everything that we do. The first is that we want to recognize great member service and teamwork, right? So anything that we do on those screens, especially from the corporate perspective, should be role modeling that behavior. Next, we want to message the company strategy. Right. So we want to teach the business, but we have to do that or message company strategy, That means communicating the goals of the company and why we're doing what we're doing. The third imperative is that we teach the business, right? So we want all of our employees to be knowledgeable about how we run the business and why that's important. The fourth is that we want to maintain our company culture, right? Which you had mentioned when you walk into a Costco, everyone seems happy. We seem to care. We want you to have a good experience and we want you to be excited. And then, the fifth is that we just want to entertain and engage. And, we're not required reading. These TVs are not training. They're on an employee's break. So we want it to be lighthearted. We want it to be, we don't want it to be dogmatic. It has to be subtle and fun because, we don't want to invade that space with, with company dogma or directives. And they're not being paid to read the screen. So we need to be careful that it's not overt training.
I'm imagining now so what was the old, working at a diner as a teenager, and there were signs taped on the wall. If you have time to lean, you have time to clean, and all this passive aggressive stuff. So it sounds like you're not doing that, which is good.
We try, we definitely don't want to, we don't want to make that experience another version of work.
Well, and this is going to be a kind of a personal question I'll just throw in here, just because I have been I'm very open with folks. I don't have any affiliation with Costco. I'm just a lifelong customer. It just feels so different. It feels like one of the brands. It feels human shaped, and I don't know how else to put it. Why is that? What is there something unique going on from the top, from the middle? Am I crazy?
Well, you're not crazy. Well, I don't know you well enough.
Well, not for that reason, right?
You might be crazy. That's not for me to say. I, we have it's hard to say this stuff without sounding a little canned, right? But, I do believe that we have a very strong code of ethics. Our code of ethics states that we will obey the law. We'll take care of our member. We'll take care of who we call you're calling customer. We call our member because you pay to shop with us, which, by the way, is a sacred bond, right? Because without you, we don't exist. We take care of our employees. Take care of our suppliers, right? The people who sell us goods, part of our code of ethics is take care of them. And if we do those 4 things, we're going to reward our shareholder. So that's our code of ethics, just that. I mean, you can count it on one hand, you can write it on a napkin. And, if everything we do, we can tie back to that code of ethics. I want to tell a real quick story. We have a young man who is on our team. And today, he said that part of the joy of being part of Costco's success is to know that we did this legally and that we did it ethically, and that we did it with our code of ethics in mind. And I thought that was a stunning reflection from someone who hasn't been with the company that long. I will never forget him saying that.
That's amazing. It's like you don't have to be a cutthroat capitalist or whatever the 1980s caricature is, right? The Wolf of Wall Street. You can do good and do well. They're not mutually exclusive. In fact, one of the themes we've had with many guests from all over the world now is do good to do well, whatever your category. It's kind of weird. The data shows, even if you don't believe in being a good person, treating people right really does boost your business. And business is a relationship, both with the customer, with the employees, everybody. You've got to approach it as a relationship if you want long-term success. And I've heard that from so many folks. So I love that testimonial from that worker there. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, there's another saying. We sometimes I feel like we live on sayings and bumper stickers here, but I remember our CEO once said, in response to being criticized because of our pay, which is the highest in the industry, they said, well, you could reduce pay or slow down the raises and put a lot more into the bottom line. And he says, paying people well and treating them well is not social welfare. It's just good business.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to write that one down. I'm going to actually I have little quotes I keep with me. I love that. This is great. I hope, these are short episodes right now, but I hope we can have you on again for further long form conversations as well. If I could give you the microphone or what Teddy Roosevelt's bully pulpit for a moment, what would your big message be to the hundreds of thousands of folks who are thinking about, but they're not sure about doing what you did, researching digital signage? What's your takeaway from this big adventure?
I guess I would say that, there were 2 things, right? One is if we're going to implement our communication strategy, right, which I bullet pointed for you, the 5 communication strategies, if we're going to do that, then we're going to want to meet the employee where they're at. We're an essentially deskless workforce. We do print. We do have an intranet. We do have some social media representation that's employee focused. And this was one of the other arrows in your quiver that can help you disseminate your messages to employees. And so in that regard, it was, a pretty easy decision once the cost of this started to make more sense. The second part, so that's the the human part, right? The employee engagement part. The second piece would be the operational component, which is, are you ready to create messages on digital signage? It's different than writing a memo. It's different than publishing a magazine. It's different than putting a post on Facebook in an employee group. It's different than the homepage of your intranet. And so there's another skill that you will have to add to your folks who are creating the content.
I'm going to add this to our list of digital signage today. Principles. You said meet them where they are. I think that's just such a great rule of thumb.
Yeah, I mean, and what's next for Costco? And I would argue we're 3 or 4 years behind, but we are where we are. What's next for us is an employee app where we'll be able to deliver the same kinds of, hopefully the same kinds of engagement and service to our employee that we do to our member on our member-facing app.
I'll have to try the new version, and I'm so glad that you mentioned this, because omni-channel mobile engagement and the employee as a customer are starting to pop up at all these industry events that I'm going to around the country, for restaurant, for retail, you name it. And again, treating people like people, good things happen. It's like magic. It's like good magic. Go figure. Well, listen, Guy, it is a real treat to chat with you. I'm so sorry that we're going to have to run and get this to production, but thank you so much for your time. Please feel free to reach out anytime you have any breaking news from the break room, as it were. We'd be happy to have you on. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say shop Costco, but I'll tell my friends. I'll tell them to shop Costco. How about that? Guys, thank you.
As business leaders look for ways to improve productivity and profitability, they're increasingly turning to innovative automation and self-service technologies. But keeping up with the rapid pace of new innovations can be overwhelming. Now there's a website to help you do just that. From the publishers of Kiosk Marketplace, Vending Times, and Digital Signage Today, Automation and Self-Service covers trends in artificial intelligence, robotics, kiosks, payments, and much more. Visit the site today and subscribe at www.automationandselfservice.com.